The final episode of Assassination Classroom. It just might make you cry. The final episode of Assassination Classroom is absolutely amazing. It just makes me feel so good. Especially because after last week's episode, we saw the death of Koro-sensei, which was a long time coming, but was an inevitability. And now we get to see the results of all of his teachings, and we get to see where all of the students are going, and it just makes you feel great. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I did not expect that a series about a giant yellow octopus with a constant smile on his face would actually, hit me at my core as much as it did. But it did. It hit a home run in this episode, and in many ways, I originally thought that last week's episode should have been the last one, but no, I really liked this one right here, as they did a really great job of wrapping up all of the loose ends, getting to see where the characters are going, and what their future careers are going to be like. The key word here is future, because we finally get to see these students 7 years in the future, and for the most part, they look exactly the same, except that they're a little taller, some of them have slightly different haircuts, and then there's Nagisa, who pretty much looks exactly as he did when he was in junior high, which is definitely something of a running joke, but he is a teacher that you do not want to fuck with. That's right, Nagisa in the future has become a teacher, and he's actually teaching all of these delinquent Japanese high school students who are absolutely massive. They look like the characters from Gears of War. They're way too big. They're like the typical Japanese students that you see in an episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is to say, they're gargantuan and scary. However, this is just the next big challenge for Nagisa, as at first, he is a little intimidated by these students. However, when Nagisa is confronted by one of the leaders of this group, he manages to turn on his assassin mode, creeps out all of these students, and lets them know that before graduation, if they can kill him, well, good luck with that. Essentially, Nagisa has become the next Koro-sensei, and what I really love about the ending of Nagisa's story is that it's not too overly stereotypical. I almost expected there to be sort of like a lovey-dovey scene between both Nagisa and Kayano. Doesn't happen. Instead, we get to see what happens with Karasuma and Bitch Sensei. Apparently, they've been married for a couple of years, and just like the other characters, they're pretty much exactly the same. The first half of the episode is the junior high graduation, and again, focuses mostly on Nagisa. I really loved the scene where he was confronted by both his mother and his father, and it seems like they're trying to reconcile their differences as well, and Nagisa himself just starts to break down right there, and my eyes just started welling up during this scene. The second half of the episode is when we go 7 years into the future, and we get to learn the fate of the students, as well as the fate of Class 3E. What I really love is that right before we get to this, there's this great scene where apparently Principal Asano is relieved of his duties and he has to leave the school because, of course, he put the students in harm's way. But what I love is that as he's packing up his gear, he's confronted by two of his former students, the ones that he actually taught when he was in Class 3E, and this scene right here just brought me to my knees, especially when they mentioned their third other student, who despite the fact that he killed himself, is still there in spirit. And there's a lot of scenes like that in this episode, like when we get to learn that they used the bulk of their money to actually give away to charity, and they used it to actually buy Class 3E itself and the mountainside, and they all reap the rewards here. They actually have this perfect monument to Koro-sensei, which throughout most of the episode, they all meet up, they start to clean up the classroom, and I love the scene of Aguri and Koro-sensei hanging out on the rooftops. I'm already getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. The rest of the episode follows a lot of the random students and showing us where they've gone, what they're doing. The rest of the episode follows all of the various students on showing us where they're going, what they're doing. Some of them are breaking out into some amazing jobs. Karma's gonna be a freaking bureaucrat. Sugino's gonna end up probably becoming a professional baseball player as he's an ace in his college league. And then, of course, there's Nagisa himself. Nagisa really steals the show at the end, because as you're watching it and you're seeing all of these students, you're just waiting for that moment. When is Nagisa going to show up? what is his future, and you get to see him as a young teacher. It is really funny, though, how intimidated he is, because at first, they make it seem like he's in this amazing classroom where he's just a super loved teacher, but then they immediately hard cut to the fact that, well, no, reality is not exactly the way Nagisa believed it to be, and he's actually in this room full of all these delinquent Japanese punks. They get right up in his face, and it's a really funny way to end the series, especially how it all ends with him confronting his students, completely freaking them out with his death stare, and then getting ready to teach as it hard cuts to black. It's just beautiful. So what's the rundown on the final episode of Assassination Classroom? They grow up so fast, don't they? This was such a heartfelt, heartwarming, and just amazing episode of Assassination Classroom. I'm glad it really ended the way it did. And overall, I think the entire anime series of Assassination Classroom was a roaring success in many ways. From what I've been told, there's been a number of material and chapters and straight up some characters who were cut from the manga version. And after seeing the anime version, I would like to see who those characters are and what those stories are all about, because I'm going to go ahead and check out the manga version of the series. I might even do like a compare and contrast between the manga and anime video. I think that's something that I'd like to do in the future, because if there's one thing that I think is the biggest strength of Assassination Classroom is that it's its characters, and I wanted to learn a lot more about them. But to be perfectly honest with you guys, I simply just cannot remember the names of all of these characters in the series, especially the ones who appeared towards the end of the episode. Some of them stayed behind in Japan, some of them decided to travel the world. They have a lot of hopes and dreams, and they want to live them to the fullest. However, at the end of the day, the default main character, without a doubt, was Nagisa, and he had a lot of great moments in this episode, and seeing his growth was also really important as well. I mean, Nagisa is still Nagisa at the end of the day. Like, he's still the same character that we saw from the beginning of the series. He just has so much more confidence now, and that confidence is infectious, and that's what I love so much about this series, is that it just puts you in such a good mood to better yourself, to better the people around you. It's an inspirational anime series. It just so happens to have the theme of assassination tied around all of it, and that's sort of like the glue that holds everything together. And that's made so true in the final scenes of this episode right here with Nagisa. Even some of the minor side characters get to make an appearance in this episode, such as Principal Asano's son and his group of goons, who actually end up helping out Class 3E in the first half of the episode by distracting the press. There's also another scene that's definitely going to raise an eyebrow or two, and it has to do with Kayano towards the end of the episode. It's heavily implied that she's pregnant, and I'm just going to have to take a shot in the dark and say that Nagisa is the father, so I'm guessing that they've been hitting the sheets recently. If anything, the series begs rewatching just to see all the funny moments and to become attached to all of the amazing characters, and there are a lot of amazing characters in Assassination Classroom. And overall, I have to say that Assassination Classroom was one hell of an unexpected surprise. Not only is it just a fun, comedy, school-setting anime series, but it's also a great critique on education and how it can affect people later in their life as well. It's quite genius in many senses. And really, that's all I have to say about the final episode of Assassination Classroom. It wraps up all of the major stories, we get to see where the characters are going, and it just leaves you with an amazing feeling. This was a pretty great anime series, and something that I think most anime fans should at least check out once. If anything, it'll get you interested in the manga version, and that's what it's done for me. I cannot wait to check out the original story, but I will always remember the original anime adaptation of Assassination Classroom, and I'll always remember Koro-sensei and his big, dumb smile. This was a really fun and pleasant anime series that I can recommend to any anime fan. So I'm going to give the final episode of the series a 5 out of 5. It just made me feel good. And after some of the other manga and anime series that I've reviewed today, I needed an episode like this. It was very cathartic, to say the least, or therapeutic. But don't take my word for it. Go and check out Assassination Classroom for yourself. But if any of you did watch the entire series, or you've read the manga, or you've watched the final episode of the series, I would love to hear your thoughts about it, and you can tell me in the comment section below. Did you guys have a favorite scene from the final episode? Did anything make you tear up? Was there another part of the story that you wish they would have focused on, or maybe wrapped up in a different way? And make sure to tell me what you loved most about watching Assassination Classroom. Please tell me in the comment section below. You guys are kick-ass! Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and comment on the video. If you would like to, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be able to see all of our latest anime and manga reviews, our weekly podcast show. It's all pretty cool stuff. Thank you again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!